Yama, I'm Jack. Let's take a look at what's in the news. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, also known as the group that runs the Oscars, has announced it wants to do a better job at making the award show more inclusive and diverse. Charlotte explains.
It's Hollywood's night of nights, full of glitz and glamour. But there's also something else about it that people have criticised for a long time. Yep, many people say the awards show doesn't represent enough people of different races and backgrounds and the movies they make. So the group that runs it will be releasing new diversity and inclusion guidelines. It'll choose 10 films to be nominated for Best Picture to make sure more voices are heard. It'll also introduce some new rules for the board that oversees the event, including compulsory training on racial bias and new time limits on how long they're allowed to stay there.
It's good as like a step. Part of me is hopeful, but another part of me is like, let's wait.
Over the years, minority groups have been massively underrepresented at the Oscars. It wasn't until 1963 that an African-American man was named Best Actor, and 40 years later, the first African-American woman won Best Actress.
This moment is so much bigger than me.
We've also seen this hashtag recently. It started in 2016, when the only people in the running for major awards were white. Some people in the industry say the new rules are a good step in the right direction, but there's still a long way to go.
Is it an industry that is valuing the stories that need to be valued? Are we trying to save an industry that we can be proud of?
SpaceX is one step closer to giving the world total internet coverage from space. Over the weekend, it launched 60 more of its Starlink satellites, bringing the total number to more than 500. The plan is to provide cheap internet to people no matter where they are in the world, with people in the US and Canada getting the first crack later this year. Alright, it's been a huge weekend of sport, and we've even seen some crowds back at the footy. Here's Nat.
Footy fans in Adelaide have been welcomed back into the stands, slowly, with more than 2,000 people let in to see the showdown between Port Adelaide and Adelaide. The Power smashed the Crows by 75 points. The NRL, on the other hand, went crowdless, aside from a few people in corporate boxes. But that's all set to change. The New South Wales government has now given the green light for crowds of up to 10,000 people at games from July 1st. New Zealand's well and truly past that point.
Tonight, we get to have a world first because of your hard work.
Crowds were allowed back after the country was declared corona-free. More than 40,000 rugby union fans were in the stands for the Blues versus Hurricane match at Eden Park. And now to some non-kicky bally sport. It's the end of the road for the virtual Formula One season. Taking out the virtual F1 title was 22-year-old George Russell, who was on a winning streak of 4 victories. And speaking of cars, how's this for drive-in entertainment? Drive-in pole vaulting. It's exactly what it sounds like. Watching professional athletes pole vault from the comfort of your car.
We should always applaud fashion choices that are bold and daring, even if we wouldn't necessarily pick them for ourselves. It's time for, well, that's an interesting look. When the education of dozens of kids is on the line, there's only one thing to do: put on a costume and teach. That's what 33-year-old Jorge does in Bolivia. In lockdown, he's turned to becoming a superhero to help teach art to up to 45 kids every day. Sometimes he's the Flash, sometimes he's Spider-Man, but every time his students love it. In sport, there's fans, and then there's fans. Anna's turned her obsession with Spanish side Real Betis into an entire room full of merch and clothing. Oh, and a newly added face mask, which at the very least removes any doubt over which team she supports. You know the phrase, "Wow, I'd bet you look great in anything." Well, it doesn't really apply to scarecrows. Whether they're dressed in clothes, a bag, plastic bottles, or actual rubbish, they all still look like scarecrows. But admittedly, interesting ones. They're all the creations of a Tunisian artist who's placed them around her town, and they've taken on a life of their own. Well, that's all the news for today, but check back tomorrow because we'll have plenty more.